Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is IFBB Pro Bodybuilder, Nate Telow. Nate, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So Nate, we're just going to jump right into things. I kind of like to start this podcast off with asking my guests, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders or fitness athletes of all time?
Man, so I'd have to start with Arnold. That's certainly a guy when I was getting into lifting that I had the posters on my wall, and I had the Arnold Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. So that's got to be number one. Man, after that, I think that like late 90s era of Ronnie Coleman, Chris Cormier, Sean Ray, Kevin Levrone. That's when I was getting into it. So it's sort of the nostalgia of buying the magazines and looking at those guys. So, and then let's say this era, obviously Jose, which I'm sure we'll talk about, right, is a huge influence in many, many ways. So I got to throw Jose in there. Let me see some of the new guys. Keon, who just competed last weekend, is a great up and comer. Derek Lunsford is great. And I've had the chance to meet Derek. George Peterson is another great guy. I've had the chance to work out and talk to him a bunch. So yeah, some of these 212 guys, because that's the division that I'm going to be in as a pro. I'm blown away by, to especially Derek Lunsford and George Peterson. When you stand next to them, you're like, how are these guys making 212? They're huge, So those are a few that come to mind. Certainly the old guys, that Arnold era, the 90s guys were something I was really into. And I'm just a fan of the sport. So honestly, I follow everybody on Instagram. I follow every show. But a few of those 212 guys, because that's the division I'm going to be in, those are the ones that I really look up to.
For sure. No, that's awesome, man. And then just one other quick question here before we kind of get into some of the happenings of 2021 for you, Nate. At what age did you start lifting weights, and what was kind of the impetus or reason behind you starting strength training?
Yeah, so I joined the gym and started lifting for the first time back in college. So I was probably 19 or so, and it was really I grew up playing sports, and then I went all in on music and playing guitar. I went to music school, Berklee College of Music. And during that time of going all in on guitar, I just did nothing physical. I just sat and played guitar, and it got to me where I was just tired and not feeling good, right? And so joined the gym. I think it was my second year in college, just more of I want to feel better and certainly look a little bit better. Didn't know what I was doing, but all through college, I just went every day. And probably by my third year in college, at least loved it enough that I was like, this is part of my schedule. I've got to make time for it around my classes. It wasn't until after college that I connected with a guy locally who trained people. Guy's name was Ralph Mercadante. And he was in like the Somerville, Massachusetts area. And he was the first guy that took me under his wing and was like, this is how you train the right way. And that opened up a lot of doors, because I was just going and doing random stuff, as most people do. Monday's chest day, and I'm doing too much, but not really pushing hard enough, that hamster wheel. And so Ralph was really the first guy that gave me a structure, a way to lift, a mind-muscle connection, and also had me aware of like, these are your genetic strengths and weaknesses. So this is how we have to train to overcome this to keep you balanced. At the time my chest was terrible. My shoulders were big because I didn't know how to engage my chest. So Ralph taught me a lot of that. And that's what kind of opened up the bodybuilding side of things, of sculpting and understanding, what do I need more of? Up to that point was just the show up to the gym and hope for the best. But yeah, it was college era. It was probably about 19.
Awesome. And just quickly piggybacking off that, was it something kind of like when you joined the gym at 19, and even before you kind of got that more focused instruction, was it something that you kind of enjoyed just right away, like picking up the iron and going to the gym?
Yeah, it's weird, looking back at it now. Certainly, you get the endorphins. I didn't have friends that were into it, so it wasn't like I was doing this because the cool kids would do it, and I was joining in. I was at a music school, so it was like a weird thing. People were like, "Why are you going to the gym?" Like, there's no sports, there's no reason. But I've always also been a person that likes doing things other people aren't doing. So like I grew up, went to private Catholic school, and I was wearing a biker jacket and I had long hair down to my chest. And the school hated it, but I kind of liked that because I stood out. Then I go to Berkeley and every guy there has long hair and biker jackets. It's everybody's like a metal guitar player. And I was like, oh man, I blend in too much. Let me cut my hair. Let me change my look. So that might have been part of it subconsciously, but it wasn't until I started working with Ralph that when I learned how to train the right way, that I got like the pump and started really seeing changes. And every time you go to the gym, you're stronger or you look better or you, but I stuck with it before that. And I think it was just, I don't even know, because I certainly did see changes. I just didn't know what I was doing. It was by luck, and I wasn't lifting with people. So it wasn't that group mentality of us pushing each other. So there was a lot missing at that time, but somehow I did stick with it. I think it was whatever changes I did make, because I was going to music school, were so noticeable compared to everyone there that didn't work out, that the little feedback that I got of like, oh man, your arms are getting big. Maybe that was part of it. I wasn't doing anything optimal, but I was still getting more results than anyone around me at my school. So I'm sure that had something to do with it.
For sure. And you were kind of feeding that, that thing inside of you of being a little bit of a rebel or doing things a little bit different. So I'm sure that probably had a little bit to do with it as well, So, so I want to get into kind of like some of the happenings for you in 2021. This has been a really big year for you. You earned your pro card earlier this year. So, for myself and the listeners, Nate, why don't you just touch on a little bit like your contest history? Like when did you start competing? Touch on your just the entirety of your competition history, and then let's talk about the universe earlier this year where you you earned your pro card. And I really kind of want to just touch on kind of the feelings, the emotions, kind of like what was that day like. So let's touch on the contest history and then touch on and finish up with earning your pro card earlier this year.
Sure. So the competing is in two phases, and I'll just briefly touch upon the first phase because it was brief. The first show I did was 2005. I did a show in 2005, 2006. And mainly I was working as a personal trainer at the time. I was working at a Bally Total Fitness. And I was probably the most muscular person in that gym, which wasn't saying much. But people would ask me if I compete because I compared to others, I looked like a bodybuilder. And I loved it. I got magazines every month. I followed the sport. So I was like, why don't I give this a shot? So I did the New Englands in 2005, and I got my butt kicked. There's levels to this, and every year, if you go to local shows, there's the guys that come in prepared with a coach and a proper off season and a proper contest and know the tan and know everything. And then there's the guy that's just like, I'm going to do a show, and you know who those guys are. And that was me, 2005. So I didn't do well, but it also frustrated me that I didn't do well because I don't do anything to not do well. So I switched to, I found a nutritionist, worked with her for 2006, the Mass States, and I came back and won that as a middleweight. And there was something that clicked at that point where I really gave everything I had in that show and said like, wow, this is like, I could not have worked harder balancing my life of girlfriend, job, prep, and I won, like goal achieved. But something clicked and said like, what if I applied this to other areas of my life and career and making money and in this procedure of here's where I'm at, here's where I want to be. What are the daily steps I need to take to get there? And so it was a really interesting learning period for me. But I stopped competing. at that point, and I focused on career for a long time. Fast forward to I think 2018. My girlfriend decided she wanted to do a bikini show, her first show. And so she had picked Connecticut Grand Prix. And right around that time for Christmas, she got me a few sessions with Jose Raymond to train with him. I had mentioned I wanted to just get my butt kicked again, get my, like, go into the gym with the intensity I used to have back in the day versus this going through the motions. And I talked about maybe working with somebody of Jose's caliber, or Jose, just to really be over my head again, and maybe I can find that passion I used to have. And so I started training with Jose, and I did. I found that passion, but it was mainly to just be in better shape and enjoy lifting again, and incorporate that in my life. And so she picked this show, and Jose said one day, you know, why don't you jump in and do the show with her? It was maybe 3-4 months away. And I was like, I'm done competing. I haven't competed in 13 years. So Jose talked me into it anyway, and I did it, not knowing what to expect. And I won classic physique and took second place in light heavyweight bodybuilding. But there became this spark of, like, I didn't want to do the show because I thought I would embarrass myself. I didn't think I'd have a chance, to maybe I can do this. And this was a show that my girlfriend and I did together, and it was a really good experience. She won the overall of the whole show. So for her, she was on such a high, and I was really happy for her. And it became something that we could set goals together of, like, okay, when's the next show? What are we going to do? And we'll prep for these shows together. So that's kind of how it started. After that, I did the Jay Cutler, which is a really big show in Boston. And I think she was going to do it, but she pulled out a month or so before. And I won light heavies and I won masters at that show. And that was a big deal because it's people who do that show usually go on to compete at a very high level at nationals or win their pro card. So that was kind of a, whoa, there may be something here. I got lots of great feedback from people. I had improved a lot from one show to the next. Then I did a couple international shows, one in Costa Rica, where the overall winner would get a pro card. So it was sort of this national level show. I think I took third there, and that was people from all over the world. It was a pretty crazy competition. Then I did one in Bermuda, the Caribbean Classic, and same thing as the Costa Rica show. People from all over the world coming, overall winner. Took a pro card. I got second place in light heavies. And after that was USA's last December. And that's where I won the heavies. I moved up a weight class, but just barely. I was the smallest guy in the weight class. I won the heavies, and I was a very close second in the overall, just missing my pro card, which was a huge confidence booster for me. And then fast forward to about a month ago, doing Universe, where I competed in two divisions, the 35 and up and the 40 and up, won my weight class in both, and then won the overall for both divisions as well. So it was a pretty dominant win, and technically won 2 pro cards, but it doesn't really matter in there. So became an IFBB pro at that show.
Now, just speak on a little bit, because it's got to be a pretty awesome feeling. But just speak on kind of like show day. I know you were on the Ron Line Report with Ron over at Muscular Development, and you talked about, you know, like the first time you came out with the first age division, you know, you were just kind of doing your thing, and then Jose, I think you said, came back before he went out for the second age division and kind of gave you a little fire underneath your butt. But just talk about kind of like that day, the experience, and just when you finally or in that moment when you realized that you earned your IFBB Pro card, like kind of what were some of the feelings, the emotions, what was that, the entirety of that day kind of like for you, Nate?
Yeah, so the shows are a lot to take in. You know, these shows have thousands of competitors. They're very well run and well organized, but it's a lot of like, hurry up and sit down and wait. So you got to rush and you got to be in this room, and then you're there for an hour and you're just laying on the floor. And so there's I had before gone out, you want to be relaxed because there's no point in getting your nerves up and being restless and walking around. So you just lay down and relax. And then all of a sudden they call your group and you got to line up, and then you go to behind the stage and you stand around and wait there forever. And so you just stay relaxed and you're talking to people. Everybody's making conversations of, you know, have you done this show before? How have you placed? How many years have you been doing this? Everybody's being friendly. And so I had kind of got caught up in that, where I'm just making friends with everybody. And then next thing you know, you're behind the stage and people are still talking to you. And then someone says you're up, and you walk out on stage and there's, you know, 1,000 people plus in the crowd and the judges, and you like, oh, okay, I gotta hit my poses. And so I was, I didn't have my game face on, you know, and I think clearly everyone else around me didn't either. It was sort of, I was just going with the flow and making conversation, and went out there, hit my poses, and you know, was fine. But then Jose came backstage and is like, you gotta fight to win this. Like, and you know, it was looking like I was gonna win, but you never know. It could be a close call with someone else. And someone with Jose's experience knows, and Jose is also a judge. You want to give it to the guy that wants this, that's coming out there, and just this extra little bit of aggression and hitting each pose is going to bring out more detail. So yeah, Jose came back after the first group, I think it was the 40 and up, and gave me the pep talk. And he's like, man, you're asleep out there. Like, I need you coming out there, chest up high, confidence, like you're going to win this, hit each pose hard. You know, if sometimes guys get, when they're on the line hitting the poses, people, it gets very cramped. Someone hits a front double bicep and you're over somebody, and I'm the nice guy. I'm like, oh, I guess I'm cramped in here. Jose's like, you step forward. You don't let anybody get in front, you know, this, own the stage. And so he gave me this pep talk, and I was in a completely different place going out for the second group. And of this, oh yeah, I came here to win. And all this, these little details add up. And so yeah, it's a very subtle thing, but it made a big difference. Jose had said people came up to him when I came out the second time and are like, you know, what did you do? He looks way drier. There's way more detail. And it was flexing harder. I wanted everything more. So that was leading up to that. You know, fast forward to the night show. The thing that hit first was, so I won my weight class in both divisions and technically won the pro cards, but they don't give you this IFBB Pro thing. They just say, and new pro, and you get your trophy and you walk off stage and the next group of people come on. So that doesn't really hit you right away. You don't get that photo moment of holding the, you know, this cardboard card that says IFBB Pro. And then also it was, we still have more competing to do. There's going to be the overall, where I'm up against every winner in every other weight class in the 35 and up and 40 and up. And so I didn't even necessarily acknowledge like, oh, I just won my pro card. This past 3 years of a journey just accumulated to this. It was, I've got to compete again, go right back around. It's the overall, let's go. And so the biggest thing was winning those overalls, because I had never won an overall before. I had always just come up short, where, you know, 4 out of 10 people would tell me they had me winning, you know, and it, you know, that kind of debatable, always very close. And so that was the immediate gratification of winning 2 overalls, because it was this tangible, I won, they gave me the big overall trophy. I'd never done it before. Yeah, and it I don't even know that it's fully set in. It has a little bit, as I've talking to Jose about what show are we doing. I ran into a top men's physique pro at the gym today, goes by Kaike, competes in the Olympia. And he was saying, you know, what show are you going to do? And we're talking about his Olympia thing. I'm like, in the club now, you know? So there's been a few moments like that have set in. The emotions are weird in that when you compete first locally, you know, you don't want to embarrass yourself, and then you want to win your class, and then it'd be nice to win an overall, but at least you qualify for a national event. And then you go to nationals and you hope you don't embarrass yourself. It's the stage that starts over and over again. Everybody knows people in their area that have been trying to turn pro for a really long time. And at some point you're almost kind of telling them like, give it up. You've been doing this for 10 years. And like, I didn't want to be that guy. So there was always this fear of, I think I can do it, but I'm sure all these other guys think they can do it too. And what's my timeline of how long I'm going to give this? Because it's taking up a massive amount of time in my life prepping for these shows that I could be using to make money or spend with friends and family. So there was some level of, can I do this? Even if I think I can, what's my timeline of actually being able to accomplish it before I close the door on it? And so when I got it, it was like, oh, well, that's a relief. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's trying and trying and trying for 10 years. And God bless them, man. You know, I know a bunch of them and they're great guys. And every year they give it another shot. And I just didn't want to be that guy. So there was a little bit of a relief of, wow, I was able to do it. Then there becomes like, this is what I've been working towards for 3 years. Now what? You know, like I was climbing this one mountain and I got to the top of it. Now what do we do? You know, do I want to compete as a pro? Is this enough? Is there, you know, a lot of that stuff, because I didn't get into this at a young age to say, I'm going to turn pro and then I'm going to qualify for the Olympia. I never had any of those ambitions. It was just, can I turn pro? That's my Mr. Olympia. If I can do it, I'll move on with my life. So that was it's a lot of different emotions. You know, it was, you know, mainly thinking, is this something I can do, period? And what's my timeline where I'm going to stop myself, you know, from doing this? I don't want to be 50 trying to go for a pro card and saying this is the year. And then I did it. Wow, this feels really rewarding, but also now what do I do with myself that I accomplished this goal?
Awesome. Now, I want to touch on just the impact that Jose has had on you. You said you started work with him in 2018, and just you gave us a little look at, you know, kind of just how Jose encouraged you and kind of fired you up here at your last competition when you turned pro. But just overall, what has Jose meant, you know, to you and for you? And then, you know, just how important, especially just speaking, Nate, to some of the young athletes that are maybe just getting into bodybuilding, how important is it, maybe even from the get-go, to find yourself a coach that you connect with, and that's going to kind of help you along? So just the impact of Jose in your life, and then the importance of a coach overall in really any bodybuilding pursuit.
Yeah, no, Jose's been huge. I wouldn't have even done that first show if it wasn't for Jose. So, you know, Jose, the impact of Jose has certainly been, I've absorbed a lot of his knowledge, which is, he has so much, you know, I certainly haven't absorbed all of it. But I've absorbed so much from him that I can't even imagine. I wouldn't be where I'm at if I didn't learn what I've learned from him, from the training for sure, man. The guy's an absolute animal in the gym. Anybody that trains with Jose, either top pros or just local people doing a session, will say, I've never trained that hard in my life. And so what started off as like just a business relationship of paying him by the hour to train with him, which I was very valuable, obviously blossomed into a friendship and helping him with his YouTube channel. And we work out together and travel and become really good friends. So I learned how to train properly, to be at my all-time limit every session, but safely. So before I'm 40 now, before I trained with Jose, 37, my shoulders were hurting a little bit. My lower back was hurting. I had all the aches and pains someone 37 would have. I feel better than ever now. And a lot of it is Jose's training style of, we pre-exhaust everything. So if we're going to do legs, we don't do the squats or the leg press or the hack squat until right at the end of the workout. Everything is like a couple hamstring exercises, seated hamstring curls, lying hamstring curls, then leg extensions. And the last set of everything would be like a triple drop set. So you put it on 200 pounds, 12 reps, right to 150 pounds, 12 reps, right to 100 pounds, 12 reps. And so it's all of these exhausting tools to really increase the intensity. And by the time we get to squats or hack squats or whatever, leg press, walking lunges, your legs are already so fried, but everything's properly warmed up. So you're not going to have the aches and pains of the lower back, the knees, all that. So that training style is huge. The nutrition is very basic, but sometimes you need somebody that doesn't overcomplicate things. Mm-hmm. Too many times I have friends that are working with coaches, and there's these elaborate charts of carb cycling that for no reason, just to complicate stuff. And Jose's stuff is like, say in prep, legs, you're going to expend more calories, more energy. That's going to be your high carb day. Arms, you don't need as much. So that's going to be your lower carb day. That's our carb cycling, right? But it always makes sense. So everything Jose does is just full of common sense, and it works, and you feel it working. So the nutrition stuff, and then beyond that, just the frame of mind, all of these shows I've gone into, I went into them not very confident because I still felt new to this. I'm following all these great bodybuilders on Instagram, and like, I don't look like that. And so Jose would give me the pep talk of, you can win this show and you will win this show. And here's why. This is what you have going for you, And so each show I believed in myself a little bit more. And that was because Jose got me to, and that's everything, that I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if I didn't believe. I went into Universe saying, I can win this show. And that was a big deal for me. Obviously, there's lots of people that are delirious and go into their local show saying they're going to win and they get last place. But I really believed I was going to do it. So that's the three things, in terms of Jose. In terms of someone working with a coach, for me, it was a no-brainer to continue to work with Jose. Once I decided I wanted to go pro, Jose was a pro. He's turned a lot of people pro. And a lot of stuff that I do, I have a background in playing guitar. The people that I study with are doing the thing that I want to do. Like, they've done it. They've gotten there. I don't want to study from somebody that in theory, they've never done it, but in theory could probably tell me how to do it. I want the person that's done it. And Jose's done it. And I see too many people with coaches that, somebody enters a local show, they get third place, and now they're a prep coach. And people are working with that person with the idea of, I want to go pro. And it's like, no, you got to work with somebody that's miles and miles ahead of you, because they have all the shortcuts. They've made the mistakes. So it was a no-brainer for Jose. He's been doing this for 25 plus years. Competed natural at the highest level, competed in the IFBB at the highest level, winning an Arnold, second place in the Olympia. And the other cool thing for me as somebody that loved the sport is Jose knows everybody. He's friends with everybody. And hence, what the podcast thing has been a joy for me, in that I've been able to surround myself with the other top people of the sport, working out with Evan Senapani, working out with George Peterson and Derek Lunsford and Breon Ansley and all these people because of Jose, and immerse myself into it and ask these guys questions. So everything I have in terms of bodybuilding has all come from me making that choice to work with Jose. And it's so important for somebody working with a coach to, if your goal is to turn pro, even if that coach isn't pro, they don't necessarily have to be. They may have terrible genetics, but they should have a roster of people they've already turned pro, to show that they've taken, if I'm hiring a business consultant for my business, I want somebody that has a lot of success stories of turning a failing business into $1 million business, not somebody who their own business is about to go belly up, So that's kind of how I view it, is find the person who's well-traveled down the road that you want to go down.
Excellent. All right. Just to kind of wrap things up here, because we are limited on time here, Nate. I know that you are opening up a new training facility out there in the Boston area where you live. Would you just kind of touch on that? And I also saw just through your Instagram, you were recently down in Florida with Jose, checking out the Redcon One gym. So talk about the new training facility, and then touch on why you were down at Redcon. I believe Jose had mentioned something about you guys going down there specifically just to look at equipment. So why don't you just touch on those couple things as we finish up our conversation today?
Sure. So this gym, I'm building it sort of as a necessity to what we need in the downtown Boston area. I've been a trainer in Boston since probably 2003, and it's all corporate gyms at this point. Equinox, we have Boston Sports Club, which is part of Town Sports International, New York Sports Club, all those. There's no mom and pop gyms anymore. There's no place to train. So if somebody comes up from Equinox, they start out as a rookie trainer, they're there for 3-4 years, they build up a following, they become a really good trainer, and eventually want to go on their own, there's no place to go to. And these big gyms, an Equinox, a Boston Sports Club, whatever, take 60 to 70% of what a client pays. So if a client pays $100 an hour, that trainer's making $30. And that's customary, throughout the industry. That's not even specific to those clubs. I've run corporate gyms at the highest level at the top. And I know why that has to happen. There's so many people up the totem pole that are being paid off of that $100 session to run this big organization. There's almost no way around it. So I left the corporate gyms a long time ago in terms of a trainer, because I want all the money. I want to charge as much as I can per hour and make all of it. So I've had to get creative. I live in these luxury high-rise buildings. I train people in them. I have trainers that work for me training in them, but we're still very limited. And at any given moment, these buildings could say, you're out, and I'm out of work. So I decided to create a place, first and foremost, where it's a home for these trainers. And all of these people in all of these clubs can leave these corporate gyms, run their own business, get paid directly from the client, and pay us a small hourly fee to use our space. So within it, we'll have, we're going to start with 3 private training rooms where it's just the trainer and the client in the room, fully equipped gym, squat rack, dumbbells, cable machine, kettlebells, TRX. Separate from those 3 rooms, we're going to have an open gym space. And that's where trainers who select that option will be training clients amongst each other. So I have some people that want the private space. They're a little self-conscious. They're new. We'll go in the room for them. The rest of my clients will be on the open gym floor working with other trainers. And I am handpicking every machine for this thing because I'm an equipment junkie. I have Jose and I every week are driving an hour one direction because that's the best gym for legs. We're driving an hour another direction because this gym has 200-pound dumbbells and we can go up to 150, 160, or the chest machines are great, or we have nothing in the greater Boston area. So, I have to buy machines for this anyway. So why not buy what I considered it to be the best? They're not any more money. Machines are generally a few grand a machine. So the Redcon trip came about of Aaron Singerman basically did the same thing. He built his dream gym down in Boca, and now they have one in Nashville, of let me just put together a gym with the best equipment that everyone would want to come and train at. And if it makes money, awesome. If it doesn't, I don't care. I have my dream gym. So he did that. I flew down there with the intention of getting on every piece of equipment and making a list of what I had to have. And surprisingly, there's some equipment I see Nick Walker using on his channel, the True Squat, the Rogers hip press, that I'm like, I'm definitely going to get those because Nick says they're the best. Jose and I got them and we're like, this is terrible. Like, at least for us, we're shorter guys, shorter legs. Maybe it's just not built for our frame. But that didn't work for us. There were other machines that we found, old flex leverage stuff, new Panata, which comes from Italy, which is like the Ferrari of machines, that were like, this is the best stuff we've ever used. Like, hands down, this destroys everything. And so I'm going to order that stuff. I have a business partner, that's just like, get whatever you need. And so first and foremost, it'll be trainers to train their clients. And even if you don't get this equipment, you might not know Panata, you might not know Flex, or all these things that we're getting. When you get on it, you'll know the difference. You'll see, okay, this squat machine doesn't bother my knees, doesn't hurt my lower back. Also, what I know will happen is we're going to have a lot of people in the area like myself that are going to want to train there. So we'll sell day passes. I'm not trying to have this being a fully functioning gym and memberships, but I'll have an affordable day pass that people will want to come and train legs and back, say, every day or every week, because it's the best leg and back equipment, in the state. So that's kind of the goal, is build my dream gym, but provide a place for trainers like myself to be able to go independent and make a really good living.
Love it. And then when, cause it's not open yet, when is kind of like the time frame for people that are kind of out in that Boston area? What is the time frame that you're kind of shooting for to open up that facility, Nate?
Yeah, so I'm ordering the equipment now. It looks like we'll get the keys September 1st-ish. We got to do some renovation in it. Build those rooms I was talking about. It's kind of a big open space, about 7,000 square feet. So a little bit of work. Right now, my whole day is like talking to contractors who can do the job for what, and can you start right away? Most likely, we're shooting for like October 1st. We're gonna say like, let's give it a month to do the renovation work. The equipment's sort of coming in at all different phases throughout the month of September. So yeah, we're shooting for early October.
Love it, man. All right, Nate. Thank you so much for taking just some time out of your full schedule to just jump on the podcast and chop it up with myself and the listeners. If anybody wants to connect with you, if anybody wants to find out more about you, where can people reach you? If there's any sponsors or anything else that you would like to share right now, please feel free.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And thank you for having me on. You've been supportive of everything Jose and I have done with our podcast and my Instagram. So I appreciate your support. My Instagram is probably the best way. Nate Telow, NateTeLow. That's what I'm most active on, posting photos, getting back to people if they DM me. We'll obviously, as it gets closer to opening up the gym, we'll be posting lots of details of the equipment we're getting and when we're opening and how people can come and check it out. I do online coaching. I do in-person training in the greater Boston area. That's most of it. Yeah. I just post my bodybuilding journey on Instagram, some music stuff here and there, because I still am somewhat of a working musician. But yeah, online coaching, I'm doing a lot of in-person training. I train people all day. And then this gym is really the big project I'm working on right now.
Absolutely. So kind of Instagram is the place for people to touch base with you then, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. Cool. All right. So listeners, thank you so much for listening. If you guys, the one favor I'd ask of you listeners is that you take this episode and just share it on your Instagram stories and share it with friends, buddies, anything like that, so that people can just get the value that I know you got out of Nate's episode on Behind the Muscle. And finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. Catch you guys later.